Learn the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
Manage your career, or your career will manage you. This is our topic today on the Higher Power Radio Show, and I'm your host, Rick Girard. So, a recent article by the Society of Human Resources reported that only 38% of U.S. employees are satisfied with their current job. This means that roughly 62% of the survey desire more. So, why do people accept what they have and let their career lead them? My name is Rick Girard, and you're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show, and we're focusing on helping companies solve the most difficult hiring challenges from a different perspective. Today I'm sitting with Mike Gellman, the founder of High Five Career Coaching and the author of Pipe Dreams, 7 Pipelines to Career Success. Mike is an expert in career coaching. He coaches highly motivated professionals and leaders in various stages of their career to gain more clarity, create substantial change, and achieve higher levels of excellence. Mike, thank you for being on the Higher Power Radio Show with us today.
Yeah, great to be here, Rick.
So I'm excited to get into this because this is something that I feel like a lot of people just don't pay a whole lot of attention to. So if so many people are not completely satisfied with their current role, why don't they pay more attention to the world around them and take the reins and make a change to help advance their career?
It's a good question. You know, I think a lot of times we have so much we're dealing with in life that we just kind of let life happen to us. And our careers kind of take their own momentum. They have their own inertia. And so many of us just fall into that trap of just following along and doing the best we can. And many people don't either A, have the energy to put into kind of redirecting, or they're afraid in some fashion. They're afraid to look inside at themselves and the choices they've made, and what would that mean for them if they were dissatisfied and they were to redirect.
So you keyed on a key point here, fear, right?
Oh yeah.
Most people fear change.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then, let's talk about the biggest mistakes people make because of that fear, right? So what do you see what do you see with people that you coach as being kind of the big reasons why people don't manage effectively their career?
I mean, there's a number of ways it shows up. I had a client once who was really upset that her boss wasn't shopping her around enough for an opportunity. And, after some discussion with her, I said, well, what if she got you a job in marketing, or what if she got you a job in the facilities? She's like, no, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like either one of those. And when I asked her, well, what would you like? She wasn't able to articulate it. And so even if her boss wanted to help her, she wouldn't be able to.
But is it ultimately her responsibility to shop herself?
Well, I mean, that's my belief.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's kind of a partnership, but it's you as the individual or the employee. Nobody's going to care as much about your career as you. So you're in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
And so the fear is for her to flash forward. A year later, her boss handed her an opportunity on a silver platter, and she turned it down. And why did she turn it down? It was fear. She was afraid. She's like, I like having the flexibility in my current job. I'm not sure if this new job would have the flexibility, and
what kind of flexibility?
Just being able. She worked just schedule flexibility. Being able to work when she wanted and where she needed to be, and she was afraid of if she would be competent in the new job as well. She had been in her current role for 10 years, 11 years, and was used to it. So many times we just get comfortable, and that interplays with being afraid to make a change is kind of the what if. And many individuals want a guarantee that things are going to work out okay. They're looking for that guarantee.
Well, that guarantee you have to look within yourself.
Well, yeah, part of it comes from the conviction and the confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, so the this loops back into fear, right? So fear of change. What other kind of mistakes do you think people make in this process of not managing their career?
Yeah. There's certain myths that people subscribe to. One of them, or they resign themselves to. So some people believe that if I make a lateral move or take a step down, quote unquote, moving just to get experience in another type of job, that'll wreck their career. And in most cases, the opposite is true, because depending on what their goal is, it gives them that exposure, that experience, and it also helps to reshape people's perceptions of them, which is kind of another myth, is that I feel I'm blacklisted or pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you stay in the same job, you will be blacklisted or pigeonholed. If you keep doing the same thing.
You could be pigeonholed. Blacklisted's a little different, but yeah, but you're contributing to that.
Yeah.
And unless you state, this is something I want to do, something else I want to do, a lot of times you'll get resistance. So that's something that keeps people feeling stuck, is they'll say to someone, hey, I would love to do this, but all they've done is, they want to do X, but all they've done is Y, or that's at least what people have seen. And so they give up. They give up, and they feel, I'm just pigeonholed.
Yeah.
What they could do, though, is something more proactive. They can volunteer for projects within the workplace or nonprofits, put themselves in positions where they can get the skills, experience, or be seen for what else they can do.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I've noticed is that some people just don't want to commit the time. That time commitment that they'd have to actually put into re-educating themselves or doing something else in the beginning. Because effectively what you're doing is you're kind of restarting a different piece of your career.
Right.
So you have to educate yourself and become competent, because you're going to not have mastery in whatever you're going to be doing, correct?
Yeah, the concern about starting over is a big deterrent to a lot of people.
It's going to cut into my time with my family. And this,
right.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot from people who are in their 50s, who are, maybe they're burned out and they really want something new. They can't quite retire yet. And, the prevailing attitude is, I'm too old to start over. Nobody's going to want me, or, this is just what I've done. And it's kind of
that's like the killer phrase that we've always done it this way, or this is what I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, so
you might as well just retire at that point if you can, right? Anything else? Any other mistakes you kind of see in career management?
One of the biggest ones, and I see this more so in the technical community. So your IT folks, your engineers, your accounting.
I'm glad you're bringing this one up. Yeah.
Individuals. There's a big focus on the technical skills and the competence, and my work should speak for itself, but not much emphasis on the relationship building. And that is one of the biggest career killers or derailers, is just putting too much emphasis on that and not on the relationships.
Oh, yeah. And when you're dealing with engineering folk or people who are technical, they don't tend to be relationship-driven people.
Yeah, they like data, they like problem solving.
Yeah.
They're focused on that, and they add their value in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But in this day and age, it's not like 20, 30 years ago where you're more siloed in your job functions. Today, it's, collaboration is really key.
Mm-hmm.
There's always mergers and acquisitions. There's always organizational changes. There's different
technology changes so
technology
fast.
Changes,
Yeah.
and so you need to be able to kind of bridge that gap and to satisfy whether they're internal customers or clients or your external ones. You need to be able to have that relationship building.
And to add on that
muscle.
So, what I've noticed is that, and maybe we'll talk about it in a few minutes, is worst case scenario, fast forward to a 50-year-old person who has been doing the same thing their whole career, and they don't want to re-educate themselves. Now you've got a scenario where things have changed. Their cheese has moved. And they're not going to, they're not hireable at that point. You've got to always maintain that you're hireable at some by reinventing the wheel or kind of learning the technologies that are viable.
Keeping yourself up to date.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of individuals, rest on their laurels and don't keep themselves up to date.
Yeah.
I know for me, I'm always investing in my own development. I spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year.
Absolutely. You and I do.
I care to admit, in my own development.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to conferences or local trade association meetings,
Having
or whether it's having a coach,
reading books.
Exactly, all those things.
Yeah, continuing to grow. Because otherwise you're just going to die. All right, so let's talk about kind of worst case scenarios that you see with people. You mentioned the 50-year-old employee who isn't employable anymore. What else do you see?
Well, so, and I would push a little bit against that. They might be employable. It's all for the time being, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's things they can still do to get themselves employable.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, trying to think. So, other things that derail people as well in that regard is really not paying attention to different clues around them. There's always opportunity. And so someone that's able to spot the opportunities, whether you're out of work and you're looking for a job or whether you're within a company, there's opportunities. And an example of that would be, do you know your company's strategic plan or strategic goals? If you do, you can extrapolate from that, for example, what the priorities are going to be and what skill sets are going to be needed, and you can then develop yourself or, hey, raise your hand.
Yeah, or are you aware of some of the challenges that other departments might be having that you can come in and help out with?
Right.
Right.
So
opening your eyes to what's going on around you, effectively.
Yeah, just kind of being aware of the environment, knowing... I remember, so one of the trends, for example, we were talking about technical professionals. One of the trends in this one organization I worked in was they were going to start outsourcing a lot of their software instead of having all their programmers develop stuff internally. Mm-hmm. And so the whole model was shifting from develop all of our own software, proprietary to our company, versus let's buy stuff off the shelf and configure it to speak to our systems. So that's something, it's a different skill set. It's a different skill set involved, right? Because now, going from coding, now you need to be able to negotiate contracts. You need to hold people accountable, with service level agreements, all those things that involve more people-oriented skills that they're maybe not used to.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So we're talking to Mike Gellman, founder of High Five Career Coaching here on the Higher Power Radio Show about mistakes people make in career management and what can happen when they don't manage their careers properly. We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll discuss how to start managing your career now so you can find yourself, if you find yourself on the job market, you're still desirable.
You're listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, giving you access to recruiting techniques that will help you hire key talent to build your company towards real success. Rick is a recruiting executive and entrepreneur who's been successfully recruiting in the aggressive Silicon Valley technology landscape for the past 2 decades. After a very successful stint at Apogee, he founded Stride Search in 2012. Based on a lean efficiency model, Stride has uniquely positioned itself as a leader in retained search for the most critical talent hires within a small organization. Whether you're a startup executive or recruiting professional, by listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, you will walk away with skills to help you attract and hire great talent. Now back to Higher Power with Rick Girard.
And welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Girard, and you're listening to Higher Power. Today we're in studio with Mike Gellman, the founder of High Five Career Coaching, and we're talking about the importance of career management. Before the break, Mike and I were discussing why people bury their head in the sand when it comes to managing their careers. And now we're going to help you position yourself to progress your career in a more fulfilling direction. So now that we've identified some all too common negative results of not focusing on your career first, what should somebody do right now to get started?
I think the first thing to do is quite honestly doing the self work to get clear about who are you, what are your values, what do you want. What do you want out of your life? I mean,
absolutely.
that's really Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits, right? One of his habits is start with the end in mind, and that's basically the principle. Is what are you aiming for? And if you're not sure what you're aiming for, then there's support available to help you get clear, or just you can spend some time on that. There's assessments you can take. You mentioned earlier you can get a coach. You have family, friends, bosses, former bosses. You have resources at your disposal to help you get clear on what you want. So that's really one of the first steps. And understanding the why. Why is it that you want that? Because, for example, I have many clients who say, Mike, I want to be a manager. Or I want to be a director. I want to be the CEO of this company in their early 20s.
And you ask why, and they have no clue, right?
Yeah, or it's somebody else's why.
Okay.
It's because in my family, that's what success is in my family, to achieve that. But it's not their why.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's. So
True.
that's a really important step.
Okay. So figuring out clarity, then what?
So figuring out clarity, and then identifying what are some steps to take. What's Martin Luther King said something along the lines of you don't have to see the whole staircase, you just have to take the first step. So rather than get stymied by and overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, how am I going to do all that? Because maybe it'll take you a year or a couple years, depending on how grand your vision is.
Absolutely.
What's the next step? So one thing I like to ask is, what's one step I can take today that will get me further than I was yesterday?
Well, that's always the first step, right?
The first step, and then the next, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
baby steps.
Sure.
So understand what you can do. Part of it is being proactive. So doing your research. So part of it is, if you know what you want, great. What's required? What are the skills, experiences, and competencies that successful people have in those roles, or satisfied people have in those roles? And there's research you can do. You can go to for example, mynextmove.org is a great website that has all kinds of job descriptions on it that our government compiles and constructs.
So, also, when you say do your homework, understanding your market, where the trends are going, and the relevance to what you're doing now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, open your eyes to the fact that again, I see too often somebody might get caught in a layoff and they've been heads down in their work and they're surprised by this whole thing, and then they have no idea what to do next, right? And again, just keeping an eye out for what's happening around you. Just if you follow just journals, trade journals, I'm sure you can figure that out, right?
Well, there's that, and just the news. I know every Tuesday I do
not
live
the fake news.
not the fake news,
or the real news. I don't know.
But I do a topical live stream on like something in the news. And
sure.
So I mean, recently, like self-driving cars is like a big thing now.
Yeah.
Right, and all the companies are vying for Uber and Lyft and GM and all Tesla. They're all building in all these capacities. So what does that mean? If you've got self-driving cars, what are the potential opportunities that could emerge from that? What are the potential problems that may emerge from that?
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of opportunity with the new Tesla that just came out. It doesn't even have a dashboard. It just has basically like an iPad, like your laptop screen. And so what that means is the skills are going to be different. The skills are going to be different. So...
now, one of the things that I advise people to do is just be comfortable in your discomfort zones, right? Like if you're not comfortable with this whole concept of managing your career, right? Or the fear thing that we talked about, right? How would somebody get started there, right? Like, so if I'm a guy who I have this fear, I don't know where to start, what to do. I've kind of gotten some clarity and I figured out where my path is. Like, how do I get past that fear to go to the next step? And what would that next step be?
You know, and sometimes it helps to get some support from someone else because it can freeze a lot of people, right? Usually you have that flight or fight response, or when you get frozen. You know, part of that is really taking a look at when have you experienced that fear before. Most of us have experienced fear before. Most of us have overcome fears before. So part of it's taking a look back at successes you've had.
Sure.
Situations when you've encountered fear and you've pushed past it and succeeded. And when I'm coaching people, there's never a time when I'm not able to help them uncover an opportunity when they've done that. And everyone, it works differently. You know, everyone, it's something different.
Well, then, you know, just taking it a step further, you've kind of, okay, so to deal with that fear, maybe talk to people, like talk to recruiters who call you to find out what's happening in the marketplace. Put yourself out there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's jumping in, talking to people, naming your fear, number one.
Owning it.
Writing it down.
I was definitely afraid of doing a radio show, but apparently now I'm doing one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're doing a great job at it. So part of it's just starting.
Yeah.
Because if you don't start, you're not going to get anywhere.
So the theme here, we almost have like a little Nike tag, just do it, right?
In a way. There's this book I've just been reading or listening to. I think I mentioned when we were talking earlier, I listen to a lot of my books now. It's by Mel Robbins. It's called The 5-Second Rule. And it's a way to just interrupt your patterns that you have by just counting backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, just to help get you to take action, get you into your brain, you know, but a thinking part of your brain, just take action.
Yeah.
So there's different tools and techniques you can use to help you jumpstart to taking action, but build a team around you. You don't have to go at it alone. You can draw on resources. You can also draw on your strengths. Like, okay, well, if I'm not good at going to a networking meeting and introducing myself to strangers, then focus on what you are good at. Maybe you're good at maybe having one-to-ones with people for lunch.
Mentor,
ask people you know for people that they know.
Yeah.
Or a mentor or whatnot.
Effectively, basically get yourself a mentor or a career coach or somebody that you respect that you can help out with.
Or in this day and age of social media, maybe you're an expert. Write an article, a white paper on something, and post that on LinkedIn. Yeah. You know, for others to see.
Now, here's one last thing that I notice that I see with a lot of people is that they'll be heads down in their work, in a career, doing what they do, and they don't have time, like, you know, somebody like me calls, recruiter, and there's just no interest in talking. And you know, I highly advise people to listen to them, to see what's out there, to get an idea of what kind of roles, where things are going. Talk to recruiters, maybe take an interview or two. It doesn't hurt and some of these people can actually be part of your resource team, right?
Yeah.
Very good recruiters know that timing is really crucial to whether or not you're ready for a new role, but they can always be used as a resource. Build one of them into your team. There's a plug for a recruiter.
I've done that myself in the past when I've been approached out of the blue by a recruiter or a headhunter, and it's for a position. Not to knock insurance positions, but I often would get contacted for insurance sales roles, and which is of no interest to me. But I would turn it around and say, you know, but this is what I am interested in. Yeah. You know, and just start to build a relationship with them.
So the point is being strategic, right? You have to be strategic no matter where you are in your career as to where you can go next. And again, I'm just going to pull from what you said earlier, which was a lot of times you don't know because you just don't open your eyes to it, correct? I mean, that's effective.
Well, if you're keeping your head in the sand, sure.
Exactly. So what would be the importance of accepting the right position in making a move to the progression of your career?
You know, every experience you have can benefit you, but one of the things I recommend when people are looking for jobs, because oftentimes they'll take the first offer because they're flattered, and it might be a horrible position for them. So I recommend that people get clear, if you've done the work, to get clear on what you value, what you want, what you need. I even, just write out a list of what are the critical things that you need in a job. What's going to be the most ideal fit for you? What's the most ideal work environment?
Sure. Does
it need to be fast-paced or slow-paced? Do you need a leader that's kind of a visionary, or someone that will just let you work autonomously, to let you do your thing? Do you need work that's going to allow you to work alone, or you need to be able to collaborate? The benefits. So write down all those things and use that as your filter. Many of us, that goes out the window when we get an offer.
Absolutely.
And we're just like, okay, we'll take it.
well, because I think they're going about it as a job search as opposed to a career search.
Yeah.
Right? Because a career is going to help you progress, and a job is just something you need so you can pay the bills.
Exactly. And, one of the latest trends that's been happening the last 10 years or so is kind of building that portfolio career. And that's another approach. And it has the mindset of strategic mindset of saying, I want to have these types of experiences. And so you have this whole gig economy and a lot of freelancers and websites that facilitate that, like Upwork. And you can be very strategic in that sense by, okay, what type of experiences are really going to help position me for that next level, whatever that next level is. So that's really key.
Excellent. So we're just about out of time for today's show, Mike. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the Higher Power community. Now, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you, how do they reach you?
They can go to my website, MikeGellman.com, MikeGellman, and they can also, on LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on LinkedIn if they like.
Perfect. Anything else you want to plug at all? Or?
Well, I have a book, Pipe Dreams, Some Pipelines of Career Success.
That.
Yeah,
Hold it up to the camera. We're streaming live.
We're on camera, yeah. So you can check it out on Amazon. It's helpful to understand yourself better, as well as to manage your career more effectively. And there's a free 28-page journal guide that they can get off my website as well.
Excellent.
Excellent.
So thank you again for being here. Thanks to our listening audience for tuning in to this week's episode of Higher Power. Quick thanks to our team, our engineer, Paul Roberts, our producers, Joan Park, Haley Stern, Shanti Rao, and our executive producer, Kim Iverson. To listen to this show and any of our past episodes, check out our webpage, HirePowerRadio.com. And for the latest insights on the show, you can follow our Facebook page at Higher Power Radio Show, or check out our blog on Stride Search. Next week we have a really special show for you guys. Our guest will be the world famous Mendez brothers, and we're going to be discussing how giving back to your community attracts talented people to your organization. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you've been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power with Rick Gerard on OC Talk Radio.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest.